women just think that they've thought for too long that they were just designed to suffer every single month. And that's not the case. We are meant to thrive no matter what day of the month it is.
Welcome to the Get Your Marriage On podcast. I'm your host, Dan Purcell, a Christian marriage and intimacy expert and coach. I'm on a mission to help couples have the best sex and most emotionally intimate marriages possible. Our episodes cover topics you've always wondered about and are packed with practical advice designed to help you take your marriage to the next level. Even though half of the people on the planet have menstrual cycles, it's still a taboo topic in many cultures. And because we don't talk about it enough, we don't have a great understanding of how to make it better. And I want to change that today. In fact, instead of working against our cycles or periods, let's make them our superpower. My guest today is Cody Sanders, a functional medicine and holistic health practitioner that's devoted her professional life to helping women feel more like themselves, especially when it comes to hormone balance, menstrual cycles, and libido or sex drive. Cody is also the founder of Mixhers, a company devoted to women's health. In this episode, you'll get to hear what natural herbs have been used for thousands of years to support healthy hormone balance in women. What foods or nutrients can naturally boost libido in women? What are two things most women don't know about their bodies and hormones? And what's the one thing most men get wrong about a woman's cycle? And of course, Cody shares her black belt sex tip, which you'll get to hear. Before we begin the interview, we've just announced our next in-person marriage retreat in the Dallas-Fort Worth area from October 26 to 29. It's a 4-day, 3-night retreat. Our retreats are for married couples that are in otherwise good marriages, but wish things were better in the intimacy department. This retreat is like a vacation for the two of you, where you get to work with me and my team to strengthen your marriage intimately. They're fun, they're romantic, we have a lot of laughs, and it's a great time for you to be with us and a few other couples to really strengthen your relationships. And the reason why these retreats are really rewarding is because it's a time for you both together to work on your relationship. We help you challenge your thinking and uncover patterns where you've often gotten stuck in the past. This retreat is limited to just 20 couples, and we will sell out just as we have our past retreats, so don't delay. You can find more details on our website at getyourmarriageon.com, click on retreats, and then DFW retreat. Cody Sanders, welcome to the Get Your Marriage On podcast. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Dan. It's so good to be here.
This is so fun to talk to another person who's passionate about talking about taboo topics. This is fantastic.
Absolutely. I'm all about those taboo topics, that's for sure.
I just want to know, to introduce yourself to your audience, I'm curious, how did you meet your husband?
Oh, well, when I was a teenager, I was very into rock climbing. I went and I moved to Northern California up in the Sierra Mountains. And I did a rock climbing competition, and there was just this really cute guy that was just, there and doing his thing. He was also competing, and we ended up just kind of talking and flirting and having a good time. But luckily, it turned out that he is my sister-in-law's best friend, which is such a random thing because I was from Utah and he was in California. But it just worked out that he was connected already to my family. So me and my sister married best friends, and it makes life so fun. We're all, still just playing and having, but not so much rock climbing anymore, but a lot of other fun things.
Now, you're one of the founders of Mixhers, and you've been a sponsor of our marriage retreat in the past. You have a fantastic product that's really popular, but there's a lot of people that haven't heard about it. Before we get into what the product is, I want to hear what was life like before Mixhers, because we're talking about hormone health and women's health here.
Mm-hmm.
What inspired all of this? How did this all begin?
Well, I'm a holistic health practitioner and a functional nutritionist. And all that means is that a holistic health practitioner is considered a drugless practitioner. I use actually food and nutrition as medicine to help to address the root causes of disease. And I had a private practice for about 25 years. And in this private practice, I worked one-on-one with women that were coming to me with all kinds of different issues. Most of the time, it was like they wanted to lose weight. But then it was also things like I am just feeling debilitated because every month I'm suffering with all of these crazy symptoms. And my doctor's telling me I need to get on birth control or I should just have a hysterectomy because I don't want to have any more children. All of these major things that have consequences down the road. So it's like there wasn't a lot of education, anyways. So I got frustrated with that a little bit because I thought, there's so much more we can do to help address these symptoms, which are really just your body's way of trying to communicate with you that there's some little extra TLC that needs to be happening there, and many things that we can do with actual nutritional therapy. And so when I went to work, I came up with a formula that's now known as Her Time, but it's a hormone balancing supplement. It uses all natural ingredients. I have a background in traditional Chinese medicine as well. And so I used a lot of that knowledge to create this product that can help to reduce and then eliminate a lot of the symptoms. There's over 100 symptoms that are associated with just PMS alone, but other symptoms that are also associated with hormone imbalance. My business partner, Jess Toulson, she was one of my clients, and she had just given birth to twin girls. They're so adorable. And she all of a sudden didn't understand what was going on with her body. She just said that she had major mood swings. She had hormonal acne that she was so embarrassed about. She would never leave the house without a full face of makeup. And she was also heavy bleeding and like 2 week long periods, things like that. And so I had introduced her to this formula that I had created. At the time, it was in a capsule form. So I told her, try this. She was very hesitant because she calls me sometimes a witch doctor because I always am
Uh-huh.
doing that and all of that kind of stuff that's
Uh-huh.
not mainstream. But yeah, she tried it. I said, stay consistent. She did it for the first month and she's like, hey, what is going on? I said, keep going, keep going. She did it for another 2 months. And then after her acne had cleared, her periods had gone back to normal length, her libido was back, her mood, she felt like herself again. And she said, what is this? What are you doing with this? And I said, I'm literally just making this for the women that come to me to see me. And she's like, okay, wait, we've got to get this into the hands of every woman because there's so many women out there suffering every month, a week out of every month. And that's not okay. So anyways, we went to work, we teamed up and created that first product in a drink formula. That was in 2019, and then since then, we've created a lot of nutritional therapy supplements that help to address all the different health needs that women have. We wanna be that one-stop shop for women's health needs and provide the solution in a natural, nourishing way. No synthetic ingredients, no artificial colors or sweeteners or anything, flavorings or anything like that. So yeah, that's how Mixers began and how we kind of started this, but it started really about 30, almost 30 years ago. So,
That's pretty cool. So, when you're talking about with women balancing hormones, what kind of hormones are in play? Can you talk more about kind of more what's going on below the surface? Like Jessica, what was out of balance for her, for example?
so with Jess, she was dealing with some sex hormone imbalance and progesterone in particular, progesterone and estrogen. But what was happening with her is after she had given birth, her progesterone levels went very, very low because progesterone is our sex hormone that helps with fertility. And that's what I think a lot of people associate it with because it's pro gestation, it's like what it
Ah, yeah.
It's also a natural antidepressant, it's also a natural anti-anxiety, and it's a diuretic, it does so many things, but it's very sensitive, so if the body ever senses stress, which of course, if you have twin girls plus another little boy, that's a couple of years older, there's a lot of stress, there's a lack of sleep, there's a lot of busyness, not a lot of you time, and so anytime stress hormones are high, sex hormones will really go low and especially progesterone. And so that's something that we definitely wanted to address is we wanted to really give her body the nutrients that could help give her body safety signals and help to address that effect that stress was having on her. So the nutrients that are in Her Time specifically help to nourish your ovaries, which is where progesterone is production are produced, but also in your adrenal glands, which are these little tiny glands that sit on top of your kidneys, are just the size of walnuts, but they have a big job. They do a lot. They produce also some sex hormones, but also our stress hormones. So it's just our body's like so smart. It wants to survive. It wants to be smart about when it brings a new life into this world. And so if the body ever senses that there's any danger, then it knows like this is not a good time to bring a baby into the world. So it'll adjust your progesterone specifically and other sex hormones accordingly to kind of prevent that from happening. So You just kind of have to understand what's happening with your body. And then there's many things that you can do with lifestyle and nutrition and so on that can help address those root causes. And so that your body can come back to balance and start functioning optimally the way it's designed to.
Mhm. Now, your ingredients are listed, but what ingredients specifically help with progesterone regulation?
Yeah, our ingredients are totally we are very transparent because we want women to understand, like, what it is that they're putting in their body, but not just what, but we also are big about educating about why, so I love that you asked this question. So, there's 5 main active ingredients that are in her thyme. The first main active ingredient is called white peony root, and it's this beautiful plant that has so many amazing qualities, but that is the one that is specifically very powerful when it comes to helping to enhance progesterone production. It is very nourishing, like I said, to the adrenal glands and to the, ovaries, but the entire endocrine system or the hormone system. It's just very good for that. But there's also other ingredients that work synergistically with it. So whenever we formulate for our mixers products, we're not just putting one type of plant. I always am searching for plants that are powerful on their own, but also work really well. So when they're combined with other ingredients, they almost amplify the benefits. And so, yeah, we have Siberian ginseng in there, Chinese licorice, dong quai, which is kind of a um, it's getting to be a little more well known now, but at the time, people were like, "Dong what? Like, what is that?" But it's an incredible Chinese medicine plant that, is very like a natural, pain reliever. So a lot of women that are struggling with cramps and things like that, and it also helps with moods and things. So that's in there, and then giant kelp leaf, which is amazing for our thyroid hormones, which are very everything is connected, the thyroid function is very connected to how well our, reproductive organs are functioning and hormones are produced and whatnot. So yeah, so all of those together definitely address that progesterone deficiency. The other thing that they do though is well, sorry, I get really nerdy and sciencey when all of this
Go
happens.
for it. This is a place for nerds.
Yeah, good. Hi, nerds. Let's unite. Um, is that when progesterone is low, you're not producing enough progesterone, it's very common that women will start experiencing what's known as estrogen dominance. And it doesn't necessarily always mean that the estrogen is too high or that you're producing too much estrogen. It's just higher than your progesterone. And so when that happens, this is oftentimes when women see the most like common hormone imbalance symptoms. So the heavy bleeding, the heavy cramping, the low libido, the acne, things like that, because it's very connected to inflammation. And so we have ingredients that help to reduce estrogen dominance as well, because they're meant to help nourish your liver. And so your detoxification pathways, that's probably the easiest way to explain that. It helps you to detox out the used estrogen so it doesn't accumulate in the body. And then it also has ingredients that help to literally go in and reduce your stress levels to help reduce. I mean, it's impossible to completely reduce our stress levels. We're just chronically stressed people in the world today, but it helps to like negate the negative effects that stress can have. Gives you those safety signals like I mentioned before. So yeah, it's really just kind of addressing these symptoms and giving the body exactly what it needs. And when the body has what it needs, it functions well. And that's the message I always love to share is that so many women have just grown up thinking like, "Oh, I'm a woman. I'm just meant to suffer every single month. This is what my doctor's telling me. And if I'm in pain or struggling, then here's a, painkiller or here's birth control or whatever." And then you've got women who like literally their periods just show up. It's no big deal. It's not. And you're like, why? Why is one woman so different than another? And it really comes down to their how their body is being nourished. And so that's where, our supplements come in because, no matter how healthy we all want to get the nutrients that we can through the food we're eating. I'm always about that first. But unfortunately, we don't live in a world where we get all of the nutrients. We're not eating all of the foods that we know we're supposed to be eating, but we're also not eating them in the quantities. Plus, just, there's soil depletion and things like that that make it so even the good, healthy foods that we're growing don't have the same amount of, vitamins and minerals that they once did. So most of us are nutrient deficient. So yeah, so if we can address that problem, then oftentimes we can have the solution that helps us to be able to feel our best so we can show up in the world as our best.
Yes, and that's all in conjunction with, like, sleeping enough and
Oh,
exercise and, you know, maintaining good friendships and relationships and getting sunshine, like, all those things. It's all part of this complete breakfast, as the commercials say, like
I love that.
It's part of it,
Yeah,
right?
full plate, right? There's so
Yes.
many things in our life that feed us, right? I love that you brought that up because that's what my whole approach is as a holistic health practitioner is we look at the whole picture. We look at all of the different ways besides just how many calories you're eating or how many calories you're burning. There's just so many things that we need to make sure we're nourishing ourselves with, like the relationships. That's a huge part of it. A lot of times when we find that there's disease in the body, yes, it's good to get these nutrients that come from our food, but it's also there's the nutrients come from the relationships that we have, the physical connection, the mental connection, the emotional connection, all of that is like medicine. So it's so important.
All right. So you came out with Her Time. That's your formula. That's kind of what launched. And you have other lines too. What came out next?
Yeah, so yeah, Her Time was our baby. That was our first one. And then we came out with a couple different products like Her Greens. We have a lot of women that we're not loving to eat a lot of the green vegetables that are so important for the detoxification. And so we decided we're going to make something that's delicious that even kids would like to drink, but still are jam packed with all of those most powerful greens that are on the planet right now that are so necessary for our body to function well. And then we have a sleep one that's called Her Nightly because, yes, so many people struggle with good sleep, not just whether or not they get the right amount of sleep, but the quality of sleep is really important too. And it's so connected to our hormones. I mean, everything, it comes back to the hormones. And so every product that we put out there it's all designed to help support optimal hormonal health and be considered hormonal friendly. So yeah, we have that. We also have a product that I think your listeners would be very excited about called Her Pleasure. Woohoo! Yes, right? We just found that there was a lot of women that were writing into us. They had used our products and were getting such great results with that. And even just using Her Time, because believe it or not, libido is very connected to hormonal health as well. It is a symptom if it's low that there's something that needs to be addressed there. But there's some women that are like, we could use a little extra help in this area. And they're like, is there any way you could make something that could help us girls, feel better? There's a lot of products out there that are geared toward helping men and that's fantastic. That's wonderful. But there wasn't anything really out there that was addressing, the women's needs. And so I thought, yes, absolutely. There are some incredible plants out there that have incredible nutrients that will support a woman's experience when it comes to their sexual health. And so, yeah, we went to work creating that. And it was funny. I always tell the story, and it's not to bash men. I just think it's funny. We kind of mentioned at the beginning of this conversation that I'm all about talking about taboo topics. And, it's funny to me that like periods and sex and things like that are considered so taboo, right? But,
Right.
um, are for some reason it makes people feel uncomfortable. But I feel like the more we have conversations like this, the more we understand that we're human and this is part of a human experience. And it's an important part of our health and our happiness to talk about these things, understand how our body works. So, anyways, we had created this formula. We took it to our manufacturers to start manufacturing. And these manufacturers looked at us and like we were absolute idiots. Like, what are you doing? You're going to just completely like bomb. You're going to put all this money into creating a product that will not sell, is what they told us. And we're like, wait, why? We have so many women that are writing into us asking for help in this area. And we know this can help, and they're like, no, that women don't like sex.
Uh huh.
And I just looked at this manufacturer and I was like,
I think it's more indicative of him and
yeah, like,
his
this is like a
relationships.
personal problem. And maybe you and I can talk. Is if that's your experience right now, then there's actually a lot we can do about it because you know what? Women do like sex.
Absolutely. Yes.
Myth, and I'm sure you bust that every episode you do, but it is
Mhm.
a myth that women like sex less than men, or that men even like sex more than women.
Right.
It's dependent on the person, right? And it's normal to have different you talk about this, you're the expert on this, but like sex drives, that's as different as our, the way we look, everybody has a different sex drive level but there are ways that you can enhance it. So if it's something that you are struggling with, it is amazing to know that there are some incredible plants and ingredients out there that can help to boost it. So Her Pleasure has ingredients that help to support hormone imbalance, especially enhancing that free testosterone, which I know women, when they hear testosterone, sometimes they worry that they're going to end up looking like a man. But this is
Get
something
mustaches or whatever.
that we're worried about that. And that has nothing sexier than that. Right. And so,
Uh-huh.
so yeah. So But that's not how this works. Like free testosterone is important. You do produce testosterone. We just produce it at a much lower level than men do.
And
But
more steady too, right?
well, yeah, and but it also fluctuates, as do all of our sex hormones throughout the month. So depending on the day of the month, you're gonna have testosterone that's naturally higher than, other times of the month. So
Mhm.
that is where you can get into the conversation, and I'm sure we should to get into the conversation about how to understand like how sex drive is actually going to even be affected depending on where you are in your monthly cycle. So that's something also really fun to know. But these ingredients in Her Pleasure, they help to balance that hormone. They also help to reduce stress because there's nothing that kills the mood more than stress.
Right.
But they also have ingredients that help to open up blood vessels, so it increases blood flow and sensitivity, and it helps to increase like the orgasm and to, the power of orgasm and all of that. So this is about like helping women be able to like enjoy every aspect of whatever, that whole process is for them all month long, not just,
Mhm.
certain times of the month where you're naturally higher in testosterone, like we mentioned before. So yeah, so it's actually our number 2 bestseller. So those manufacturers were wrong.
Yes, you
It's been
proved them wrong. Right.
we proved
Good.
them wrong. They're neat. Yeah, people were interested in this, and men and women buy this product, by the way. I think it's always really cute when husbands or partners will come and like purchase it for their spouse. It's great.
That's good. I was on Amazon one night just because I'm just really curious. Like, I'm really skeptical of like the way people market to men to help with their sex drive or whatever.
Yeah.
And some of the advertisements are just absolutely hilarious. But I was on Amazon just looking at things, nothing, no intent to buy. But I saw this coming up over and over. Horny goat weed, I think is
Yeah.
the name of the ingredient. Is that
Yeah.
really a thing? Is that an ingredient
That
in
is
your thing?
that is and it is funny, some
Uh-huh.
of these ingredients have been used for thousands of years, I
Mhm.
don't know what came first, the term horny, if that was like, that's just been being used back in the day and, rural China. I have no idea, but it's funny, some of these ingredients have very specific names that you have no doubt at what their actions are, but some of them, maybe you don't know, like maca. That doesn't really say much about what it
Uh-huh.
does. Maca is an incredible plant for both men and women to help to support, a healthy libido. And it's something that we have in Her Pleasure as well as other ingredients. So that's fun. It's a good education for you, right?
It's awesome, yeah. Okay, what are things that women are grateful to learn after using your products or after learning from you? What's like 1 or 2 things most women don't know about themselves that
Mhm.
that you often educate them on? And then
Yeah,
I'm gonna follow up with what men need to learn or that they usually don't understand.
yeah, that they maybe don't understand, and
Yes?
that's
Uh-huh.
okay. I think men are coming a long way, and there's so many sweet men out there that are becoming more and more interested in this and want to be part of this conversation. So I love that. Nothing makes me happier to hear a woman tell me that they finally feel like themselves again.
Mhm.
I feel like whenever it's talked about in society about women's hormones, it's always like kind of used in a negative way, like, "Oh,
Yeah,
you're
it is.
hormonal," or "You're," and so it's like there's always kind of this negative feeling when it comes to our hormonal health. And yet it's so natural. There couldn't be anything more natural. Half the population of the world, has periods and goes through these different hormonal shifts depending on what age or stage you're in. And so it's hard to be a woman sometimes feeling like there's something wrong with you when actually there's nothing wrong with you. There might be some things that you can improve and enhance in your life by taking better care of yourself and maybe even having even a better mindset around the different things that are going on in your body monthly or throughout your life. But so nothing makes me happier to hear that a woman's like feels like she has better control of her emotions, better control. And I don't mean no emotions, like embracing and understanding, but also recognizing the beauty of these emotions. It's when the emotions get to the point where they're debilitating and you're not able to function. And that's where, they're feeling so much better is because now they feel like they're just having regular good old emotions and they feel
Mhm.
good. Also, just, there's a lot of women that have to show up in the workforce or these teenage girls that are trying to play sports or date or have a social life that, you could look around you right now. I don't know where people are listening to this podcast at this time, but there's probably a woman near you that is, having a period. And that's not always the most fun and pleasant, thing to experience, but yet we function in life, right? And we just push through. How awesome is it when I hear from women that say, you know what? I am able to, and it's not like a big chore or like a huge challenging effort for me to try to like show up in my life now because my periods are something that are so manageable. Everything, that I was dealing with before that were holding me back from doing all the good things I wanted to do and are meant to do. And, in this world, I'm now able to, and I still feel great. I'm not feeling run down. I'm not feeling depleted. So I love that. That's always the best thing. Women just think that they've thought for too long that they were just designed to suffer every single month. And that's not the case. We are meant to thrive no matter what day of the month it is. And for men, I think that's so good for them to understand too. I think our men are often only aware of our menstrual cycle because
Right.
there's
You're
telltale
either on the period or you're not. That's what they think.
right.
Right. Hmm.
Yes. And so they're like, "Oh, if any disagreement or any, emotion expressed, you're like, "Oh, you must be starting your period soon," or whatever." And that's like they think that just happens that's the only thing that's happening all month long. So I think it's fun when men understand that there's actually men have both men and women have a circadian rhythm, right? We're familiar with that. That's our sleep cycle. We all go through that. And that's basically the only cycle that men go through. Their hormonal cycle is a 24-hour cycle.
It's like the
You're
sun.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
And women are like the moon. I love that.
Yep.
That's perfect.
Uh-huh.
Women
Uh-huh.
are like the moon. We ebb and we flow. We actually have four different phases of our monthly cycle. So the menstrual phase is just one of them. So I think it's really cool that men are interested in knowing like what are the other three and what's going on with the body for these women. Um, during these different phases. And I especially when it comes to, like, relationships and, sexual relationships too, I think there's a lot that can be learned if this is understood and communicated about. So for instance, we have our menstrual cycle, but then you go into what's known as your follicular phase. And follicular phase is like when the body's trying to create fertile ground. Okay. It's like your sex hormones have been low. Now they're building up again. And this is oftentimes when women will start feeling that resurgence of energy again because their sex hormones are, getting into place. And then you go into the ovulatory phase. This is when a woman is fertile. This is when you can conceive. And so this is naturally when our sex hormones are at their highest. This is when a woman is feeling ready for like anything. Bring it on, like the quickies. This is the time to do it, right? This is
Mhm.
the time that will actually work and that she would be ready for that. And then you go into what's known as the luteal phase. And this is when everything, if you don't conceive, the body gets the message, okay, we're not bringing a baby into the world at this time. And so then it starts shedding the uterine lining. And that's what then leads into the menstrual phase. But yeah, our sex hormones ebb and flow. They go up and down depending on what part of this phase are, and this can directly affect our libido, and that's natural. Our libido is naturally going to be higher during the time that we are most fertile, right? And it's going to be less high once we get further away from that little, prime time of our month. And so this is when men and women can talk about understanding, like maybe how they're going to approach foreplay, for instance, like what's going to be most effective approach when it comes to that. Like for women who have just ended their menstrual cycle, you might need a little more time. You might actually need to start in the morning and like start flirting and start just doing some things that show love and care and appreciation and all of that. I mean, that goes a long way. And then once it gets time, to have some fun with each other, then it's like maybe a little more foreplay is going to be needed before you can actually, begin everything. I mean, it's just so important. And I feel like men and women, when they understand all of this and they understand how to work with a woman's hormones, it's so much more fun and
Uh-huh.
beneficial for both. Everybody enjoys it more. So
And easy because you're not like working against the system. You're working with the system.
yeah, you're not working,
Right.
yeah, against your hormones, you're working with them. And so, and obviously you want to be spontaneous. You don't want to be always planning, oh, well, it's, day 13 or whatever. It's like you want to be spontaneous as
I don't know.
well.
Maybe you do.
Calendar out. Hey, I'm all about tracking. I feel like
Uh-huh.
women should track their menstrual cycle. And when I say menstrual cycle, that means their whole month. But they should track it, not just when they start their period, but like they should know what phase of their cycle they're in. Mixers does have an app that helps with this that makes this easier. Literally just push some buttons on the app and you'll know exactly where you're at. And then you'll understand, like, okay, great. This is the time where we're gonna just take our time, like see what theirs is on the menu and then decide what we wanna have. Maybe this is, like, going to be more of the three-course meal rather than drive through, the quick fast food,
Right,
like
right.
so
Mhm.
I just think that's something that men always love learning, and I think women appreciate it when they have a desire to learn and understand that part of a woman's life.
Right. Yeah, my Intimately Us app has the same as a feature too. We can track your menstrual cycle, all
Look
the
at you.
phases. Yeah, and
Right.
incorporate that into your sexual relationship and planning. So,
So great. So important. See, you are way ahead of the game. That's
mm.
great.
Okay, so let's say you're a couple, you've done a great holistic approach, you're managing stress, relationships, and especially with your food and nutrition, you're getting the support that your body needs. And now you're ready to take your sex life to the next level. What are
Mhm.
your black belt sex tips that you'd give a couple? They want sex to be even better than they have now. What tips would
Yeah.
you give them?
Oh my goodness. Well, my husband and I have been married over 31 years, and luckily we have an incredible sex life. That's something that's always been a huge priority in our life, something that we nurture. And so I would say I don't know that I have a black belt because I would, I feel like I don't even know what that would be other than the fact that we are big flirts. Like,
Uh-huh.
that's is important for me. Like, I'm not all about like, "Oh, we live these separate lives and then, oh, it's Saturday night, let's, get it on." I'm like, no, it's something that's like we're constantly flirting with each other, texting, or when we are together, we're very much about like physical touch. Both of us have that as one of our love languages, and understanding that love
Uh-huh.
language stuff is so helpful as well. But also understanding that in marriage, you are going to have like seasons, right? You're going to have seasons, and don't get so frustrated with like if it's feeling like it's a season where maybe things are there's a little bit of a drought there. I mean, it's luckily for us, I think we enjoy sex so much that we, haven't had a huge drought. Still, there's times that we're just tired, and we'll have a week where, nothing happens, but it doesn't mean that we don't love each other, that we're not attracted to each other. We just find ways to connect in so many other ways. I'm huge also about communication, and this is probably really boring, but that is huge to me. It's so important for us to feel like we are always learning new things about each other, and that questions, and that that we want to get to know each other. I feel like when you've been married 31 years, I think sometimes you think you know everything about each other. There's always new stuff to learn because we're always evolving. And so I think it's very helpful for us to have like things that we are individually interested in, and then coming together and wanting to learn and then learn together. We are open, we try new things. We're just really open. And I'm really grateful for that because I know that's not always the case for everybody, but I feel like that would be our black belt. What did you call it? The
Black belt sex tip. Yes.
black
Uh-huh.
belt sex tip.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I
Be
mean,
open, try new things.
how boring is that? But I tell you, it works. It's not boring at all because, it's helped us to be able to have a really fun marriage for over 31 years. So yeah.
That's great. Fantastic. Cody, can you tell our listeners where people can go to find you?
No, I'd love that. I'd love to connect with any of your listeners. You can find me personally. I'm on Instagram, Cody Jean Sanders. That's just my page where I do a lot of education. I'm all about education as far as understanding these types of things about our health and our happiness. I love to give you guys little tips and things like that. I also do a weekly podcast called the It's Her Time podcast. And so that goes out every Tuesday. We're on YouTube and all podcast platforms. Again, where I do a lot of education, but I also bring on incredible guests that can come and help share and give us the things that we should understand, better in our lives to help improve our lives. But you can also follow us over at Mixhers, and it's Mixhers, Mixhers, or on our website, mixhers.com. We're just very active on our social media. We're huge about community. That's something that's very a big part of our brand because, again, we're all about supporting women's hormonal health. And a lot of that is connection. Women need connection with other women, also with men, but they also need connection with each other. So we do a lot of community events. We like to get together and have some fun and reduce that stress that we're all dealing with all day, every day. So yeah, I love it. Come find me. Let's be friends.
Awesome. Great. Thank you very much.
You bet. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you're interested in accelerating growth in your marriage, either sexually, emotionally, or spiritually, I want to invite you to work with me in my affordable coaching program called Next Level. More information about Next Level and my fun and sexy apps for couples are available at getyourmarriageon.com. Please also don't forget to subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss a single episode. And be sure to tell your married friends. I promise, they will thank you for life. Now go get your marriage on.